Hey, welcome to Monday. It means it's time to take a look at the business aspects on Mansfield today. And with those details, here's Chris Gibbons.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of MansfieldToday.com. I trust you had a good weekend, and I'll bet quite a few of you turned it into a long weekend. Hope you enjoyed it, whatever you got up to. Once again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm afraid Jeremy Mansfield himself is still a bit under the weather. So once again, I'm covering for him. In case you're new to the channel, I am Chris Gibbons, and on a Monday morning, I usually chat to Jeremy about business, the economy, sometimes throw in some politics, and so on. Today, in a little while, I'll have a guest. We'll talk about coffee and a very important exhibition coming up called Hostex. The big story of the moment, still very much inflation, particularly in the US. We saw their central bank, the Fed, drop a huge 75 basis point rate hike on Wednesday of last week. Will that be enough to bring inflation under control? By itself, certainly not. But Fed Chair Jay Powell has made it clear the Fed is prepared to drop another of the same magnitude next month, 0.75%, and then possibly two more of 0.5% each by the end of this year to achieve his goal. It is a tough one because using interest rates to tame inflation is a bit like using a sledgehammer. It's made doubly difficult by the fact that all the data being seen by the central bank officials, and this applies anywhere in the world, including here in South Africa, all that data is historical. But you only see the effects of that sledgehammer blow at an unknown point in the future. It's very imprecise. You almost always look back and wish you'd done it differently, but it is the only tool in the chest. It's the first time we've seen a 75 basis point hike since 1994, but then again, inflation in the US is at a 40-year high. Will it trigger a recession in the US? Well, almost certainly. And will it affect us here? Again, almost certainly. We can see it as the rand weakens and in the pressure it puts on our Reserve Bank to follow suit. Of course, we'll be watching our own inflation number with keen interest when it comes out later on this week. Markets well down after some very topsy-turvy trading in most parts of the world. The other big story at the moment, South Africa's Auditor General says there's no evidence of improvement in municipal management. I guess we don't need the Auditor General to tell us what is blindingly obvious. Local government on the brink of collapse, almost right across our country. We've just had a similar warning from Ratings Africa, but the AG, Tsakani Maluleke, says the deteriorating financial health of the municipalities reveals increasing indicators of a collapse of local government finances and a continued deterioration over the term of the administration. The 6 major metros have all already been downgraded by the ratings agencies, and they're on review for further downgrades. So bad has the situation become in Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, the local business chamber has written to NERSA, the national electricity regulator, asking it to intervene and appoint Eskom to deliver their electricity. Nelson Mandela Bay also running out of water. The local chamber warns there's no political will or capacity to turn the situation around. Mind you, I'm sure we'll all take great heart from President Ramaphosa's decision last week to give MECs and deputy ministers a fat salary increase. They'll each make just over 2 million rand a year. Cabinet ministers, those paragons of efficient execution, see their pay increase to just under 2.5 million rand a year. At least COSATU's come out against the increases, calling them tone deaf and embarrassing. I could think of a few other choice words, but they're not ones I'd use in polite company. Time now, though, for us to turn our attention to a very different matter. Our guest this morning edits a magazine which is very close to my heart, especially first thing in the morning. He is Ian Evans, editor of Coffee Magazine. He's also a show ambassador for Hostex. Ian, good morning and welcome to you. I think the obvious first question to you is whether or not the way we view coffee, the way we consume coffee, has changed as a result of the pandemic and the lockdowns. Ian.
Morning, Chris, and thank you so much for having me. I think it's a very good question, and coffee is something that a lot of people around the world, and increasingly here in South Africa, use to start their day, get a good, hot, comforting beverage, a caffeine fix in the morning before they get ready for their busy lives. But more importantly, I think within our industry, it's a connecting point and a community space within the cafes, the espresso bars, the coffee roasteries around the country where like-minded people can come together, share ideas, maybe go on a date, have a business meeting. They spaces that facilitate a lot of community and a lot of important dialogue. So I think having not had that in the last 2 years due to the pandemic has been devastating financially for our industry, obviously because a lot of those businesses had to shut down during the hard lockdown. But similarly for just regular South Africans who use those spaces, it was equally as tough.
Coffee certainly getting more and more expensive, like many other things, but it's a luxury, but a luxury we can't really do without. Well, I can't.
Well, I think it's a broad spectrum, Chris, right from the top end of the specialty coffee market, which, people will be buying a cup of coffee for around the 50 Rand mark if it's really a beautifully special micro lot of coffee, all the way down to like the broad base of probably instant coffee drinkers in South Africa. Yes, it is a luxury somewhere across that spectrum, but I think in most households you'll find it's a staple good like bread or rice or flour or anything along those lines.
Are there shortcuts, ways of still indulging, of having a decent cup of coffee? And sorry, no disrespect, I don't count instant in that description. A way of having a decent cup of coffee but keeping costs down?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's so funny being in the coffee magazine. A lot of people say to us, "Oh, I'm a huge coffee fan. I have 15 cups of coffee a day." And I don't think that that's really the point. I think the point, if you ask me and you ask Mel, my colleague who runs the magazine with me, we will only have 2 or 3 coffees a day, but they're really, really good ones. So I think depending on your palates and depending on your pockets, my advice to people would be invest in something really special and indulgent fewer times in the day, but make sure that you really savor that moment, be mindful in that moment of what you're drinking, where that coffee has come from, the farmers who have produced it, the baristas who have made it, and the roasters who have roasted it.
It's also getting more and more complex. I look at the number of coffee-making gadgets and machines available on places like Takealot, Yuppiechef. It's an amazing variety.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. It's been a wonderful journey over the last 10 years in a South African context to see how many incredible coffee brewing devices have become available here. And I think thanks to our industry, all the people that will be at Hostex, for example, those kind of importers and exporters and distributors of great coffee and coffee products, in any given household, especially in the top LSMs over the last 10 years, we've seen people graduate from like a basic mocha pot to maybe a pour over, a Chemex, a mini presso, or even a home espresso machine. And I think we're seeing major retailers like At Home and Yuppiechef, retailing a lot of single group espresso machines, which you would never have found 10 years ago when kind of the specialty wave of coffee hit South Africa.
Let me into a secret. Do you have a personal, absolute favorite way of making coffee?
I do. I have a single group espresso machine at home and a grinder. So I'll make my own little cortado every morning before I head off to work. And then luckily enough, at the Coffee Magazine headquarters, we have an array of devices which get sent to us. So we're in a very fortunate position. But generally we'll have, I'm drinking a pour over right now, which I've made. So that's very delicious. But yeah, I prefer a nice extracted double shot of espresso with a little bit of steamed milk.
There you go. Now, you mentioned Hostex. You're also a show ambassador for Hostex, which is back this year after a 2-year lull. Have I got that right?
That's correct, yes. So the Hostex exhibition is at the end of this month, the 26th to the 28th of June. And it's really important for our industry, Chris. The whole food and beverage and hospitality industry, we really, really need shows like this. It's the kind of few times in the year where you get to see what the latest innovations are in coffee, to connect and network with the people who are out in the marketplace all over the globe, sourcing great coffees, who are bringing the latest technology back into roasting or espresso machines or barista training or whatever it is. So we've really, really missed the show, and I actually can't wait to get there at the end of the month and see all of my colleagues and friends from the industry.
Is it just about coffee? Surely not. It's for the whole tourism and hospitality industry.
Yes, it's much broader than just coffee. So obviously our focus there and my focus there is to be in the coffee and tea village, which is, obviously focused around coffee. But I think all hospitality, coffee is one really essential element. So if you're a hotel manager or you own a guest lodge or you own a restaurant, your coffee offering is super important. But there's obviously a huge amount that goes, that is their core business. So it's really nice for us as coffee specialists to be able to network with that high quality and high caliber of other hospitality and tourism industry professionals and listen to what's going on in the chefing world or the hotel world, because a lot of it is relevant across all the different subsectors of food and beverage.
Ian, for anyone who wants more details, where would they find them?
I think go straight to the Hostex website, which is hostex.co.za. Click on the link, and entrance is free if you register. And it's a really wonderful experience if you're into food and beverage. I think come along on the Sunday if that's your day off, and then the Monday and Tuesday are more the trade days. But it's going to be a great show.
So just let me clarify: is it open to the general public, or do you have to prove that you're, say, a guest house owner or a hotel manager or whatever?
Look, I think I'm not exactly sure on what the number restrictions will be like, if any, but it probably would help if you are some way affiliated to the industry.
Okay, there we'll leave it for today. Ian Evans, editor of Coffee Magazine, show ambassador for Hostex. Thank you for joining us. And that's it from mansfieldtoday.com for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back same time, same place next week, unless Jeremy Mansfield himself has recovered. He's having a bit of a long recuperation, so I'm not certain he'll be back next week, but we'll keep you posted on his health. I am told he is recovering, and he will be back in the not too distant future. So hang in there, Jeremy, if you're watching the podcast as well. Once again, thank you for having joined us on mansfieldtoday.com. My name is Chris Gibbons.